Elves experience time differently. A year may feel like a blink, as 50 years may feel like just a season. Decades and centuries feel brief, and the lives of others merely flicker in and out. In such a life that extends across eternity, what should such a being pursue? The tragedy behind this question lies in the character of Milliarde, an elf who seems to have lost her meaning in life and is instead stuck in listlessness for what seems to be eternity. In episode 33 of Frieren, we are introduced to Milliarde, whose way of being differentiates her from her fellow elves. As she herself remarks, elves pursue things so as not to become like her being the embodiment of a being stuck in boredom that has lost any desire for meaningful pursuit. She raises the concern for elves' desire to pursue an idea for eternity. Someone who has done this but was disappointed and subsequently has chosen to deny this desire altogether. Bowshaft and pointless pursuit. In her conversation with Frieren, she reveals in part that she has once pursued something with her whole mind, body, and life, only to have found it to be completely worthless. Perhaps, in time, she has come to the realization that nothing is worth pursuing. Bored and listless as she is, and maybe wanting to see another reenact her pain, she turns to Twitter. She creates an elaborate treasure hunt for the greatest liquor the world has to offer, Bowshaft, which is a German word that translates into English as vicious, fitting for the cruel joke Milliarde sets up. The liquor is stored in a now ancient ruin, guarded by a complex barrier with an encryption set in stone. A whole setup designed to really sell the idea that the greatest liquor exists. But really, the liquor was the worst drink she had. Asked what's the meaning of this, she simply responds that it's a joke. Pointless. Absolutely pointless. The whole thing is a reenactment of her history, or at least we can infer that it is. A beautifully wrapped pursuit that ends in disappointment. It becomes clear what the main struggle of her character is. What would you do if what you've pursued with your whole life turns out to be completely worthless? Fass and the answer to Milliarde's question. 1,000 years or so later comes Fass, a dwarf who has dedicated his life searching for the spirit Bowshaft. He has spent over 2 centuries searching for it, and assuming that dwarves aren't born alcoholic, he is well beyond 200 years old. As dwarves live on an average of about 300 years, you may say that he truly has dedicated his life towards the search. He encounters the party of Frieren, whom he requests to help him, as he has discovered the ruins leading to Bowshaft. Frieren initially refuses, but is convinced by her party members due to their lacking funds. On a later note, Frieren shares to her members that she knows that Bowshaft is a joke created by Milliarde. In part, her refusal of Fass' request is probably an aching feeling that she doesn't want Fass to find out that his life was spent pursuing something worthless. But she decides to see the job through. Spending 3 months breaking the barrier, the storage is finally opened. Taking in a liquor for himself, Fass drinks, and finds that the drink did taste awful. Frieren recounts the first time she has declined Fass's request. During their previous hero's journey, back then she asked the same question that Milliarde posed to Hyther. What would you do if what you've pursued your whole life turned out to be worthless? Hyther replies he'd just laugh it off, and in this context, since it's about the drink, he adds that he'll just have everyone drink the awfulness with him. Back to the present, this is exactly the scene that plays out. Fass laughs and, while disappointed, still seems to be quite happy, saying that the town shall share the awfulness with him. This ties us back into the question of Milliarde and the stark contrast of her and Fass's reaction in the face of having a disappointing outcome. What separates Milliarde's nihilism from Fass's seemingly okay response to an otherwise devastating result? Should we imagine Fass happy? The difference of Milliarde and Fass. Both Milliarde and Fass reached the same destination, where the object of pursuit was disappointing. Yet, Milliarde's disenchantment with pursuit expands as a worldview, whereas Fass's merely extends to the moment. This differences lies in what these characters have allowed these objects of pursuit to do to the years before it. For Milliarde, the failure of the outcome poisons the whole journey. That if the goal turned meaningless, then the pursuit must have also been meaningless. By extension of this, in her near-infinite lifespan, while she can test near-infinite pursuits, it also risks near-infinite disappointments. Her conclusion to her failure turns her stasis. If every pursuit risks revealing itself as worth nothing, then why do anything? In contrast to this, Fass did not allow the outcome to invalidate the life he has lived. When the drink turned awful, his 200 years of life were not wasted. It remains alive. The search, the anticipation, and the stories one gains are still real and valuable. His relationships within the town, the desire and act of pursuing something with your whole being are not discredited by the outcome of a bad drink. The tragedy of searching for meaning across eternity. I think there should be much caveat about reducing Milliarde as someone who just failed to look at the bright side. There is difficulty in comparing Milliarde with Fass and others. Eternity. A human that lives around 80 years will live and experience life differently than a dwarf with 300 years. But both will build meaning with a clearly bounded frame. Perhaps the human would dream to build a house, a family, a prosperous household, while a dwarf may attempt larger projects and ambitions. Mortality limits the pursuits we can adopt. It limits options and forces urgency. In most cases, people die before the completion of all their set goals. Really, meaning animates the soul till death. Most do not see the end of goals and meanings. But an elf like Milliarde lives without that clearly bounding frame. With an eternity to spend, it becomes crucial to adopt pursuits that can encompass an endless amount of years. For example, Frieren finds this in the pursuit of magic, an act that seems to be always evolving and developing. Ciri, while her character's goals are not explicitly stated, seems to spend her time involving herself in political structures and taking on apprentices, testing and training mages. These meaningful pursuits seem to be those that are easily scalable, capable of being stretched across a life near infinite. However, it seems that Milliarde found an ending for her pursuit, and in reaching the end of ends and seeing it empty, she faced not failure but completion and disappointment. When one has eternity both to pursue and to reflect, the emptiness of such an ending seems to be much deeper and louder in death. Then one can truly end up disheartened to ever act at all. But we don't think in that sense. We think in terms of years rather than thousands. We are not immortal, but she is. She is operating on a different bounding frame than we do, and I think that's what's especially tragic for her state. I don't really have an amazing conclusion to tie all this together, as I just wanted to share my thoughts about this recent character that showed up in Frieren. But I do hope that we get to know more about Milliarde in future chapters. But at this point, who knows? So yeah, that's about my short essay. Oh, and I would also like to take a brief moment to thank the 38 subscribers that we got. Thanks for being here. If ever you're watching right now, the support I get from your interactions and comments are pretty much fuel for me to continue. So thanks for that.